This week in Jamaica Now, June 10, that's the date set by the Court of Appeal to start hearing arguments from Vybz Kartel on why he should not be retried for murder. Why a policeman linked to Leoda Bradshaw's murder case has been transferred. Riverton Dump on fire again, sending huge plumes of smoke over the capital city.
The government made several interventions, including the provision of trucking of water, and we are quite advanced in finding a solution to the problems there.
Government pumps $150 million in latest drought fight. And filthy streets, why the Mayor of Kingston called in organisers of Carnival Road Marches. I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. The Court of Appeal will hear arguments on whether Vybz Kartel should be retried for murder over 5 days starting June 10. Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop issued the ruling on April 12. Cartel and his 3 co-accused have been given until May 6 to file their submissions for why a retrial should not be ordered, while the prosecution, which is pushing for another attempt to retry the men, will have until May 31 to file its response. On March 14, Jamaica's final Court of Appeal, the UK-based Privy Council, quashed the murder convictions of Cartel, Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John. They were convicted in 2014 for Clive Lizard Williams' murder in 2011. Cartel and the others were sentenced to life imprisonment. However, the Privy Council said in its judgment that the men's convictions should be quashed on the ground of juror misconduct. The court ruled that the trial judge should have dismissed a tainted juror, Livingston Kane, who was later found guilty of accepting a bribe to try to influence other jurors in the case. Cartel and his co-accused denied any involvement in the killing of Mr. Williams. Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake has confirmed that a policeman rumoured to be romantically involved with Leoda Bradshaw, who is accused of murder, has been removed from duty at a St. Catherine lockup. Dr. Blake was speaking at his first quarterly press briefing this week when the question was raised about rumours that Miss Bradshaw was pregnant.
We heard the allegation and immediately commissioned an investigation around it. We also removed the officer who was so accused from the station, but our investigation to this point has not shown that there's any truth to the allegation. And so far, the allegation seems to be false.
Ms. Bradshaw is charged with murdering PNP politician Philip Paulwell's infant daughter, Saraya Paulwell, and her mother, 27-year-old Tashina Patterson, in September last year. The alleged plot unfolded after Ms. Bradshaw allegedly confronted the woman on Facebook. Ms. Bradshaw is accused of contracting several hitmen, including her cousin and co-accused Roland Balfour, and orchestrating a $500,000 plan to murder and kidnap the mother and child. Tashina and her daughter were reportedly shot dead and their bodies burnt. And the bail application for former PNP MP Jolyan Silvera, who is accused of the murder of his wife, has been pushed back to May 2. The matter could not proceed on Thursday in the Home Circuit Court because the defense did not get full disclosure of documents in the case. 42-year-old Melissa Silvera was allegedly murdered at her home in Stonehill, St. Andrew in November last year. Initial reports had indicated that Melissa died in her sleep on November 10 of natural causes, but an autopsy found bullet fragments in her body. Gregory Roberts, the man convicted of the 2017 murder of 15-year-old schoolgirl Shineka Gray, has been sentenced to life imprisonment. He must serve 42 years behind bars before being eligible for parole. Mr. Roberts wore a distant expression as presiding High Court Justice Bertram Morrison handed down the sentence in the St. James Circuit Court on Friday. Justice Morrison denounced the murder as a gruesome and sadistic act. He said the case reminded him of the days when he used to witness the slaughtering of goats and pigs. Shineka was stabbed 19 times. Mr. Roberts' attorney, Shumu Paris, advised the court that his client will be appealing the sentence. The government's Riverton City dump in St. Andrew was on fire again this week. Thick smoke blanketed sections of the capital city, Kingston, and parts of St. Andrew Tuesday into Wednesday. The situation forced businesses and schools in the area to temporarily close their doors. The National Solid Waste Management Authority reported that the blaze was brought under control late Tuesday. Kingston Wharves Limited suspended operations at its facilities at Newport West for several hours on Wednesday. And the Health Ministry also advised residents of Kingston, St Andrew and St Catherine to limit outdoor activities, wear face masks and take other precautions against smoke inhalation. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that the government has allocated $150 million in emergency funding to truck water to areas in Jamaica affected by drought conditions. The money will also be used to assist in providing additional water tanks. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Mr Holness said Clarendon, St Elizabeth, Manchester and Trelawney have been the parishes worst affected.
The response is not just for potable water. The Ministry of Agriculture has a now well-established system of mitigating drought, and they have started the trucking of water to the parishes of St Elizabeth and Manchester through the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, and they have also started to provide more water supply through the National Irrigation Commission. And during the period January to March 2024, over 9 million gallons of water have been trucked to approximately 900 farmers to alleviate the impact of the dry spell. The ministry has also distributed 9,000 square meters of pond liners, with 45 recipients benefiting from that. These farmers are now able to better harvest their crops and use the limited and intermittent rainfall that they have received.
Mr Holness said for the corporate area, Hermitage Dam was 79% full and the Mona Reservoir 77%. During last year's historic drought at this time, both were 40% and 54% respectively. Information Minister Robert Morgan has dismissed as immaterial public calls for House Speaker Juliet Holness to withdraw a letter of reprimand she wrote to former clerk to the Houses of Parliament Valrie Curtis last month. In a letter dated March 22, Mrs Holness accused Ms Curtis of gross dereliction of duty and bringing Parliament into disrepute over the handling of reports submitted by the Auditor General's Department. Mrs Holness's actions have been condemned by unions, civil society groups and the opposition People's National Party, who accused her of exceeding her authority in being a politician trying to discipline a civil servant and without due process. They've called for the letter to be withdrawn and an apology to Ms Curtis. Now addressing journalists at a post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday, Minister Morgan said the issue is not of great concern to most Jamaicans.
Murders are down 14%. We're not talking about that this morning. Hundreds of lives have been saved since the start of the year. We're not talking about that this morning, right? What we're talking about is something that is immaterial in the grand scheme of things. And I think we need to start focusing on the things that are important to the people of Jamaica. When I go to North Central Clarendon, Minister, nobody's asking me about a letter to the Speaker. They're asking how we're going to get more water, how we're going to fix some roads.
And opposition spokesperson on information Nikisha Burchell has criticised Minister Morgan over his response to the public concerns.
The opposition is appalled, though not surprised, by the crass display of arrogance by Information Minister Robert Morgan in his response to media queries regarding the improper and unjust public letter of reprimand issued by the Speaker of the House, Honourable Juliet Holness, to former Parliamentary clerk, Ms Valrie Curtis. The Information Minister's dismissive attitude is symptomatic of a government that has lost its way in serving the people, crudely resisting accountability and flippantly dismissing the legitimate criticisms from a broad cross-section of media, civil society, unions, and the opposition about a matter which exposes a worrying tendency of misuse of power in this country.
Meanwhile, Attorney at Law and Deputy Clerk Colleen Lowe has been appointed Clerk to the Houses of Parliament. It follows the retirement of Valrie Curtis on April 6. Ms Lowe was called to the Jamaican Bar in 2014 and worked at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica as a legal officer before she took up the Deputy Clerk job at Parliament in May 2022. The Jamaica Labour Party's JLP fight for the Kingston and St Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, has reached the Supreme Court as its losing candidate for the Kintyre division has alleged irregularities in a claim that could trigger a revote in one polling division. In a filing dated March 11, Kelvin Clark argued that the change in location for polling stations 82A and 82B in a division disenfranchised voters. Winning PNP candidate and now Councillor Vivienne Brown Bond, returning officer Eric Malcolm, and the Attorney General are the respondents to the claim, which was filed under the Election Petition Act. Picking up the Kintyre division was crucial to the PNP taking control of the KSAMC from the JLP. While both parties ended the local government elections on February 26 with an equal number of divisions, 20 each, the PNP won the popular vote and earned the right under the law to select a mayor. And the Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, and the leadership of the KSAMC met with organisers of Sunday's Carnival Road Marches over the filthy New Kingston streets in St Andrew that greeted residents and motorists on Monday morning. Representatives of Exodus, Gen XS, and Yardmas bands were present at the meeting on Tuesday. They argued that unauthorized vendors were responsible for the garbage pileup. The KSAMC said new protocols will be established for next year's event. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, let's take in some scenes from the 2024 Carnival Road Marches.
Let's go. In the center. In the meantime, ladies, I see you. I see you. This is yours right now. Let's go. Let me go. Lolly, yeah, Molly, I miss say what's